Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market on a bit of a, oopsie doopsie kind of day in the markets today, right? Market's gapping down pretty, decently, we'll say, in the morning. So yeah, Tesla, of course, following suit down almost, just over, I should say 5% on the day. So let's go over it. What does this mean moving forward? And again, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc. Well, again, I do share my thoughts with our members every single day as the market's open, trading, etc. throughout the trading day, a different time frame analysis, etc., options flow. If you're interested, link is down below in the description of the video. For just, again, $3 a month, you get access to all my Tesla updates, broader market updates, SPY, VIX, things like that, options flow, different time frame analysis, etc. So again, just $3 a month, and you get access to the YouTube membership section. $5 a month includes NVDA, $7 a month includes my tier 3 posts when there's something worth sharing in the market that's essentially not Tesla, not NVIDIA, individual stocks, of course, and also access to the private Discord. We have a tier 3 chat room, members day trading, they're constantly sharing thoughts, opinions, and just, chatting throughout the actual trading day itself. And of course, every Sunday, I do chart requests with members as well. That they request from me to review. But yeah, anyway, jumping into a Tesla closing day, like I said, 5.2% down on the day, closing at pretty much $444 per share. Definitely a bit of a painful day after, what seemed to be a pretty nice closure yesterday. Now, yeah, granted, we were obviously a little bit extended, but, the best case scenario, like I mentioned, was to come back, a retest, and hold, right? This is the most important thing, to hold the mid to low 460s. But instead, what we did was, you can see, we gapped down, and we actually opened up at about $455 per share. And that's kind of the issue with sometimes, when you get gap ups or gap downs above or below key levels, right? So we didn't get a chance to really turn this level into support and head higher because we gapped down below that, right? Sometimes that's how the market goes, unfortunately, right? It is what it is. It's just the name of the game, right? It'd also be too easy, wouldn't it? So, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. So, the fact that we gapped down below, but the most important thing is notice how, and this is what I was telling my members when we were rallying, actually, when we bounced off of here and we rallied up into pretty much the low 460s, really, the high of the day, we turned it back into resistance, right? That's the thing that, was a bit of a concern. I guess you can argue the fact that, we turned it back into a resistance, right? So again, instead of, keeping up here and not gapping down like we did pretty substantially and turning back into support, we ended up gapping down and turning it back into resistance again, which is a problem, right? That is a problem, and we lost this low. So those are problems. Now, there's also good news. It's not all bad news, don't get me wrong. But that's kind of that first sign. And personally, where I exited my position for like very humble profit, let's just say that. But whatever. Hey, we take what we can get sometimes. But again, that's just how the market goes. Now, the one thing to note is the fact that Tesla, and this is kind of where we closed today, kind of like what we did on this candle right over here, and then we had a nice gap up and we continued higher. Tesla has been holding the 921 EMAs, and especially more specifically the 21 EMA, this red line right here, pretty much the entire time we were up here, right? Now, obviously, initially it was just holding the 9 EMA over here. But then once we started falling down, there's only one candle that closed below the 21 EMA, which was, I remember, a bit of a, spooky day in the market, you can argue. But aside from this one candle, every single candle has bounced off of the 21 EMA, right? And it's, even though it went below it at times, it never really closed below it. Nothing significant, at least. Nothing meaningful, right? The closest one, other than this one candle here, was this candle just a few days ago, last week at Thursday. But we gapped up and headed higher. We're pretty much there once again, exactly the way this candle was. Now, whether we gap up and head higher from here or not is obviously the main question to watch out for, but we are technically still above that. So the thing to watch for is kind of like what we had here, right? We're still above it. If we don't get a nice gap down to open the day off, and we actually get a nice, at the very least, flat, if not a gap up, continue watching this sort of, 444-ish area as potential support, and daily closures below the 21 EMA can start giving some definitely some larger warning signs, warning signals, if you will. That momentum, honestly, maybe it's just not as strong as we expected, right? That is a possibility. Again, it's the market. You never really know sometimes with these kind of market conditions, right? So you have to be ready to adapt as things change, because things change in this kind of market pretty frequently. There's a lot of pretty aggressive chop in this market lately. But as long as that holds, that'll be good news overall. And the bulls, in my opinion, maintain control. Now, if we gap down, right now we're gapping down about 0.4%. AMD earnings is coming out, so let's see how this goes. But if we gap down and we do open, let's just say, I don't know, at 440 or something like that, and we do what we did today, where we gap down below a key level, in this case the 21 EMA, mid 440s, which was an area of resistance here, obviously major area of resistance, and now we ideally turn it back into support. But if we gap down below that, and then on the morning rally we end up coming back into this mid 440s and also turn it into a resistance exactly like we did here, that could be another sign of, this could be a problem, right? So it's worth paying attention to how price reacts at these kind of, in these kind of situations. So just, it's worth mentioning that. But all in all, the ideal scenario is we don't get a gap down, we hold pretty well up here, and we pretty much hold about the mid 440s. That is the best case scenario. Gap down below, watch for potential mid 40s to be a resistance. If it acts as a resistance, that obviously could be a potential warning sign. If we just get back above it and turn it back into support, that's a very bullish sign. It just depends on how price reacts. AMD earnings coming out here, starting to react. So just watch for that. Now, to the upside, if we continue holding this area that we've been holding this entire time, and we do not start turning the mid 440s into a resistance, yeah, I think easily we can come back up and start at least retesting this sort of low to mid 460s. Above low to mid 460s should yield closer to the 480s all-time high retest. However, on the flip side, if we do gap down below and or really just ultimately turn the mid 440s into a resistance as early as tomorrow, really, that is where we start having a bit more problems. And that is where we can potentially start heading back down and coming down to this demand area all the way down here in the kind of mid to low 420s to as low as even $410, where we had, a few instances of drops that severe. Got recovered pretty quickly, but I would definitely not be surprised if at that point, yeah, about the mid 420s around here becomes kind of the next level to target. Below that, of course, we have about $410 per share. Now, the final thing to mention, and this is like if we put on bearish goggles, if maybe things just really don't go well, like maybe the earnings votes, because don't forget, we have the event, investors event Thursday. If it doesn't go well, or for whatever magical reason, Elon's vote doesn't get passed, or if there's just essentially any drama, I guess you can say, associated with that, and let's just say things really don't go well. To me, like the worst case scenario, while still overall on the bigger picture maintaining a bullish outlook, but definitely short term will be pretty bearish, would be that we're still developing a pretty much double top situation here, right? Nice little double top situation. But again, double tops, these kind of potential bearish patterns are essentially meaningless unless we trigger it. What triggers a double top pattern here, right? What triggers this? Well, a loss of this neckline, if you will, right here, which is at about, we'll say about $410 per share. If at any point in time we come down to, let's say, this range, and then we, maybe find some support, bounce up, and then we ultimately lose 410, or maybe it just happens right away, whatever. It doesn't matter how quick or when it necessarily happens. But if we lose 410, especially without breaking above this high up here and essentially maintain the double top pattern potential, that is where things can start getting definitely more bearish, faster, quicker, and there will be a lot less volume within this area. So the drop between these areas can be much quicker, because you can see, right, this area, every time we go past about, we'll say 360 to about, we'll say $400 per share, that $40 range, you can see it happens pretty quick, right? It happens pretty quick. Both times we smacked down very quickly, but then we rallied very quickly. So again, if we lose this 410 and we start turning this double top pattern into a potential problem, we could also slide down very quickly to the 360s, 370s region, below about $410 per share. Now, again, I'm not trying to spread FUD. Again, it's completely irrelevant unless, about $410 is lost and visibly turned into a resistance. We're obviously not there yet. I'm not saying that's going to happen, right? I'm just saying that as a, potential scenario that can play out if, the stars align, essentially. So worth just kind of overall understanding how that, potential situation that could be setting up. But again, the bears still have a lot of work to do for that to happen. Not only do they have to lose this sort of mid 440s region with the 21 EMA that's been holding pretty nicely for many weeks now, then they have to lose the mid 420s region. Then they have to lose the 410 region. So, the bulls still have arguably 3 zones right here, 1, 2, 3 of major support and demand still waiting for price that they can still get, pretty decent bounces from, and, nice support, essentially, I guess, if you will, coming into the stock overall around these general zones. I just want to make that very clear. But if these fail, and if we start losing this region, that is when problems can start persisting. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Right now, let's go to the 4-hour time frame. I'm using one of my favorite indicators by far, with the SMI down here. I have slightly different settings on it, but nonetheless, once again, it's been pretty accurate, right? For the most part, again, we were at the top of the range over here on the 4-hour SMI, and then we went a little bit higher, actually created that bearish divergence. I briefly mentioned that in yesterday's video, but nonetheless, it's been pretty, again, unless we are in a parabolic rally or parabolic fall, I guess, this thing is very accurate. It's for the most part extremely accurate, right? For the most part, aside from like earnings, of course. But nonetheless, you can see we got to the top of the range, got crossed down below, and despite this higher high over here with that bearish divergence, we ended up actually, coming back down. And we could potentially come back down. Maybe we do lose the mid 440s and we come down and retest these sort of ranges down here in the 420s. That is a possibility. But to me, and one of my personal, I wouldn't say it's a rule, but something I very much prefer if I'm trying to long a stock, whether it's selling cash liquid puts, whether it's just outright buying shares, I don't like to do it too aggressively, and if I do, I'm very stingent on how close my exits are, and I'm a lot more picky with my entries, exits, etc. When the SMI is at or above that red line, if it's near or below the green line, to me that is usually offering a better risk versus reward. Again, I'm going to zoom out. Right? I'm just going to zoom out right here, and this whole area, pretty much the majority of this year, really. Take a look at this, right? Every single time has been near the top, we've been close to, if not near a top. Every time it's been near the bottom, we've been close to, if not near a bottom in the stock. And so far, that's been playing out, shockingly accurately, aside from substantial falls that are just, that 5 to 10% of the time price action where just, very aggressively goes up or very aggressively goes down. Those are the, anomalies. But, 80 to 90% of price action, you can see for yourself right here. Pretty good. Pretty damn accurate. So again, if we do cool off down here, if we do ultimately lose the mid 440s, lose the 21 EMA and come down to the mid 420s, this means also that the SMI will most likely make its way down to the bottom of the range. And I would expect some substantial buyers to start coming in, if not for at least a bounce, but potentially a strong bounce as well, if in the 420s region, if we of course end up coming down to that. So again, it's just, let's see how it plays out. Let's see how we react to these levels. Let's see how we react and open up tomorrow as well. Because again, we still have the 21 EMA that is so far holding as support, and that's been holding as support very, very convincingly for, again, very, very quite a while now. So let's see how we react to the 21 EMA going into tomorrow's open and whatnot. Now, going over to SPY very quickly, we did actually lose this trend line once again, and we did gap down below that. Now, SPY is above two key levels. If I bring out this line over here, you can see I put it down like this. Previous all-time highs over here at around, we'll say 674, and also the 21 EMA. What the hell? Which is right below us as well, right? That 21 EMA, same as I was talking about on Tesla stock, right under us, trying our best to hold above that. So key level here, because number one, the issue is, well, we gap down below this trend line, and we are visibly turning it into a resistance on today's move up to the upside. You can see here, right? As we moved up, pretty much turned it into a resistance. Not great, but we're still holding previous all-time highs, old support, old resistance now support, and the 21 EMA. So it's not all bad news either. It's just a matter of which one comes, holds stronger. Do the bears defend this trend line like they couldn't over here, and then they actually send the price back lower, or do the bulls come in strong over here and then send price back above the trend line, kind of like what they did over here? We obviously don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows. But another factor I'll mention that's also interesting on SPY, same with the 4-hour SMI. I'm telling you, this 4-hour SMI is pretty good. I want to zoom out, and this is the majority of this year. This is going back to like pretty much May of this year. Every single time the price on the SMI has been near the bottom, we have also been near the bottom of overall price action. Essentially, the price and market essentially was ready to head higher. We're almost there again, if not already there. Let's see, guys. Let's see. I mean, is this just going to repeat the same way it did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times already this year? Now for the 6th, or is this time different? Let's see. But it is a time for the bulls to really start stepping in. It's pretty much right here, right now, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty much right here, right now, around this 674-ish region. Let's see, guys. But all in all, thanks for watching. Options flow on Tesla stock very quickly. Let's take a quick peek at options flow. Very mixed flow today. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of the flow today. I'm not really seeing anything too meaningful. Some calls towards the end of the day for sure. 11:14 calls coming in here, 450 and 455. I see some also Friday calls coming in, 11:07, 11:07, 450 and 455. So I am seeing some bullish calls come in for this week and next week, but it's not like a crazy amount. Like, oh my God, there's so many calls. It's like, yeah, there's some, but it's not an unusual amount. So take that as you will. But all in all, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.